Okay, I think we can start. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Road to Registration webinar, which is going to be focusing on filling up your registration application for the specified categories. My name is Kosi Nkambule, and I am the Marketing and Communications Officer at ECSA. Today's session is going to be facilitated by Mr. Stradom, who is an ECSA registered professional engineering technician, and he's going to be taking us through the presentation. So a bit of house rules for the session today so that it runs smoothly for everyone is that Mr. Stradom is going to take us through the presentation. After that, he's going to open up for a Q&A session. So please raise your hand if you have a question and he'll be able to answer. We also have Mr. Donald Ndlovu on the line, who's our registration officer, who's also going to be helping us to fill some of the registration questions. Please note that the recording is going to be made available to all participants who have joined the call today. Can we make sure that our mics are muted throughout the session so to limit any distractions and disruptions to the session? And I hope everyone's going to find the session fruitful and helpful in helping them fill out their application. So thank you, everyone. Mr. Stradom, over to you.
Thank you very much, and good morning to everybody. It's very nice to have the opportunity to share with you the registration process or the road to registration for specified categories. I quickly get my presentation up. I can then start sharing. 1 second while I get my presentation going. And while I do that, I can tell you a little bit about why I am, as a professional registered civil engineering practitioner, talking to you rather than somebody that's from a specified category. And the reason is quite simple. It's because I've been involved with ECSA for almost 2 decades as an assessor, reviewer, and then also moderator. And I also was very closely involved with ECSA in the developing of the Civil Laboratory Technical Controller specified category. So even though I'm not registered in a specified category, I do understand the ECSA processes, as well as specifically then the specified categories registration process and requirements as well. So that's enough about me. Let's get going. Let's see if I then have if I can get my pointer going. So just in case somebody needs to ask me something and I need to point at it. So what I'm going to do today is dealing with the regulatory context. So who is ECSA and why is ECSA who they are, the built environment landscape in which we practice, regulations of the engineering profession, why and how, the relationship with voluntary associations or VAs, the role players related to registration, the development model, and then the registration requirements, and the registration requirements, and the registration requirements, and the registration requirements. There's quite a couple of slides on that. So then, in terms of the Constitution of South Africa, every citizen has the right to choose their trade, occupation, and profession freely. You are not, the Constitution gives you that right to choose what you want to do. However, it also grants the government the power to regulate by law the trades, occupations, and professions that it sees fit to do so. And South Africa has chosen to regulate this profession that we are in. This gave rise to the Engineering Professions Act of 2000, Act number 46 of 2000, or the EPA, as ECSA staff often refer to it. And This EPA provides for the establishment of a juristic person, which is the council, and how the council is formatted and what powers the council has, and also the duties of the council. So then registration is a tool that the council uses to regulate the profession. So in terms of how our built environment landscape sits, we've got Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, and it is the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure that signed the bill this is under the department that the Engineering Council, as well as the rest of the built environment councils exist. So there is overarching to ourselves, there's the Built Environment Council. We also have 5 other councils in our built environment. Those are for the Council for Architectural Professionals, Landscape Architectural Professionals, then there's the Engineering Council, the Property Evaluators, the Project Construction Management, Project and Construction Management, and then the Quality Surveying. Quantity surveying, not the land surveyors, but the quantity surveyors. So it is within this environment which we operate, and that we require, or the legislation is then from the Public Works and Infrastructure Department. So in terms of governance, so the executive authority would be the minister or the ministry, and the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. The Council for Built Environment is also then an accounting authority, and it coordinates the 6 councils within the built environment professions. And the ECSA themselves is an accounting authority, and the CEO is the accounting officer. So what that means is the CEO is the person that is accountable for the work that the council does, as well as the financial governance of the council. So ultimately, we are funded, the council's work is funded by state to a large extent, as well as then by its members who are registered to ensure that the council can continue to do its work efficiently. So how does ECSA then regulate this engineering environment? So the value chain starts with research and policies, standards and procedures that gets developed. When they get implemented, they regulate the accreditation of academic programs, the registration of professionals in specified categories, and then also ensuring the quality of the work that is produced by the engineering practitioners. There's a professional misconduct management, so we all have a code of conduct that we need to adhere to, and it includes that we shall act ethically, we shall do that which is to the benefit of our clients and so forth. So it is making sure that people who are registered adhere to the code of conduct and protects the profession and the integrity of the profession. And then there's also continuous professional development. We are in a very fast evolving world in which we operate, and technology is constantly being updated, and we update. We need to make sure that we maintain our professional development in line with that. However, for today, we are here to talk about registration. So In terms of the Act, the Section 18 of the Act talks about the categories for registration. So we have 18.1a, B, and C. A is the professional categories, B is the candidate categories, and then C is the specified categories prescribed by Council. Currently, we have 9 specified categories. There's lifting inspectors, lifting machinery inspectors, registered medical equipment maintainers, fire protection systems practitioners, civil laboratory technical controllers, enterprise integration practitioners, engineering management practitioners, road safety auditors, and then glazing specialists and glazing practitioners. So those are the specified categories that ECSA allows people to register for. So what is the road to registration? The professional development model starts with stage 1, which meeting the engineering educational requirement through an accredited program. Then you can register as a candidate. Once you've graduated, stage 2 is your training and experience stage, where you work towards meeting the competency standards. The professional registration then happens, and then you continue on practicing your engineering works, whether it be in whichever of those categories. You observe the code of conduct, you maintain your competence through continuous professional development, and then paying your annual fees. And then there's a 5-yearly renewal of your registration, which you really only need to show that you have maintained your competence through continuous professional development activities which you partake in. Okay, so the common requirements for all applicants in order to be able to register in the candidate category, the applicant must demonstrate that he or she meets the educational requirements for the category. Okay, and you would find the educational requirements for the specified categories in E07 SC and E17 SE. SC. So the E referring to the educational documents and the R to the registration document. And these are all available on ECSA's website. Really quite simple to find. If you go under documents and you scroll down all the way to where you find the specified categories. The educational requirements may be met by holding an ECSA accredited qualification or an acceptable combination of accredited qualification that is prescribed for the category, holding a qualification or combination of qualifications under an international agreement. So there are various educational accords, which is then run under the International Engineering Alliance. Alternatively, you can have a qualification or combination of qualifications that have been determined on a case-by-case evaluation to satisfy the criteria for substantial equivalence to an accredited qualification. So any qualification that you might have obtained that is not accredited by ECSA or sits outside of the International Engineering Alliance Accords can on a one case-by-case basis be evaluated for its substantial equivalence, or a combination of various other academic achievements. So effectively a recognition of prior learning may be done by ECSA in order to recognize the qualification. Okay. So to attain registration in a specified category, an applicant must demonstrate that they have met the educational requirements, as well as demonstrate competence against a prescribed standard for that category. Okay. It is deemed unlikely that the competency can be developed in less than 3 years and demonstrated at the required level. So, hence, as per the provisions of the EPA, ECSA had prescribed a period before applying for specified category registration of a minimum of 3 years. So you can go and see in R4, the specification is listed over there. Okay, so let's talk about what documents do you need to go and have a look at in order for you to have the full picture about what it is actually required to register. So everything starts off with the Act, which gives ECSA its mandate. So Council must accredit programs, they may recognize programs, and they may assess applicants. And then Council must register a person who demonstrates competence against the standards. So through that, we have a registration policy that ECSA has developed. That's R01 POLSC. And the policy then leads to the education, to the education side, what the qualification standards must be, and that is an EO7 SCE. And then alternative to this standard, you could also have recognition of education and qualifications, and that program or that process is recorded in E17 PROSC, and then that goes back and amplifies what is in the registration policy. So that is the one side of it. As I said, we must first meet the educational requirements and then your competency standards. So R02 STA SC, that's the competency standard document. It is explained in R08 SC, which is the guide to the competency standard. And then the training guide for training and mentoring guide is R04, which advises you on how to work towards getting meeting your competence. And then R05 is the sub-discipline specific training guide. So what makes the difference between the competency of a lift inspector, a lift machinery inspector, or a glazing specialist? That would all be prescribed in R05 for those sub-discipline specific requirements. Then R03, that prescribes the procedure that ECSA must follow in order to register a applicant. So the process that happens behind the scenes at ECSA is prescribed in R03, and they are very adamant to make sure that we do, as volunteers who work for ECSA, maintain that process and follow it to the letter in order to make sure that everybody that demonstrates their competency against the standard is registered. So the various categories in which you can register with the Engineering Council. The category for engineer, the requirement is a BSc or a BEng, is a benchmark qualification, and they need to solve complex engineering problems and perform complex engineering activities. Engineering technologist, it's an advanced diploma in engineering or bachelor's in technology in engineering, or the new bachelor's in engineering technology. They need to solve broadly defined engineering problems and performing broadly defined engineering activities. Next up is an engineering technician. There's a whole list of possible qualifications that one may have in order to register. Some of them a little older and some of them brand new, and then they need to solve well-defined engineering problems and performing well-defined engineering activities. For the specified category, the benchmark qualification is a higher certificate in engineering, and they are required to solve specifically defined engineering problems and performing specifically defined engineering activities. So the training period, we're talking about a minimum of 3 years post benchmark qualification. Generally takes longer than 3 years to acquire the competencies. Imperative that training programs are well developed, managed, and implemented by the employers that are registered under a commitment and undertaking. Spending time on a particular element or training without a qualitative objective will not ensure the achievement of the required level of competency for that level. So if you have for 3 years been doing the same thing that you did in the first month that you started working, it's not to say that you have actually in that 3 years gained the necessary depth of understanding or engineering prowess in order to actually be able to register. Okay, so the goal of the training program is to allow a candidate to develop his or her competence to a point of being able to demonstrate the outcomes at the required level on a sustained basis and to take responsibility for the work that is performed. So what is the candidate's role? Candidates should appreciate that the onus rests on him or herself to ensure that they receive training that will culminate in meeting the competency standards as set out in R2R. The supervisor is the person that directs and controls the engineering work of the candidate, and they take responsibility for the work in terms of Section 18(4) of the Engineering Professions Act. The supervisor is expected, together with the mentor and the candidate, to plan the training task by task to develop the candidate's competence and to review the achievements of each task. So, performance and functions of competence. Specified category practitioners are able to perform their functions because they have the knowledge, the skills, and the attributes, and their competence is developed by education, training, and experience. So how do you develop towards professional competence to be able to say that I am now competent to practice within this engineering field? During the postgraduate period of training and experience, the candidate, the applicant is in employment and works with or under the supervision of qualified engineering supervisors and professional mentors. A professional mentor guides the applicant or candidate's professional development with the assistance of the engineering supervisor. The training process may involve structured activities, including induction and training courses on the specific skills or technologies. So there may be a requirement to learn specific software or specific equipment. Technologies may form part of that training process, but it also includes the ability to, or I don't know why now I've tripped over my words. Sorry. So there is, as I said, the specific skills that needs to be learned and the technology that enables one to be able to practice within that area also forms part of the training that one needs to go through. So the definition of the competence outcomes. There's 11 outcomes that are defined, and these are conveniently grouped into 5 sets. The stem of each outcome is the same in the competency standard for professional engineer technologist, technician, and the specified categories. The competence standards are differentiated by the insertion of a level descriptor that is defined in the competency standard, and the location is shown with a square bracket with the word level in them. So wherever we find this level with the brackets, we're going to insert specifically defined. So group A outcomes, outcome 1, we would have define, investigate and analyze specifically defined engineering problems. Outcome number 2 is design and develop solutions for specifically defined engineering problems. And then outcome number 3 that does not have a level descriptor is comprehend and apply the knowledge, principles, specialist knowledge, judicial and local knowledge. So within the field in which you are doing your work, that knowledge is what you would be building on and applying and understanding within the context of what you are doing within your specific category. Group B outcomes is the managing of engineering activities outcomes. Outcome number 4 is manage part or all of one or more specifically defined engineering activities. Outcome number 5 is communicate clearly with others in the course of engineering activities. Okay, so we're not saying there's no level descriptive for communication either. You need to be able to engage with your superiors, your people that are reporting to you, as well as your peers and your clients. All communication must be clear in order to ensure that the engineering activities are conducted correctly. Outcome number 6 deals with the impacts of the engineering activities. Group C, outcome number 6 is recognize and address reasonably foreseeable social, cultural, and environmental effects of the specifically defined engineering activity. And outcome number 7 is meet all legal and regulatory requirements and protect the health and safety of persons in the course of your specifically defined engineering activities. Outcome number 8, once again, there is no level descriptor to conduct engineering activities ethically. Outcome number 9, exercise sound judgment in the course of specifically defined engineering activities. And then outcome number 10 is be responsible for making decisions on part or all of the well-defined engineering activities. And then group E is to undertake your professional development. So it's referred to as initial professional development while you are working towards your registration. And then once you are registered, it is referred to as continuous professional development. So undertake initial development activities sufficient to maintain and extend his or her competence. Those are the 5 groups. So during the course of your training and experience, you will progress through the degrees of responsibility. In the beginning, you will be exposed. And the nature of the work you would do is to undergo induction, observe the processes and the work of competent practitioners. Your responsibility would be to pay attention. The level of support you would have, the mentors explains the challenges and forms the solutions. The next level is B, that is assisting. So you perform specific processes under close supervision. You are responsible for, you take limited responsibility for the work output, and you mentor and supervisor coaches and offers feedback. The next level is level C, participating. Here you would be performing specific processes as directed, but with limited supervision. You are fully responsible for your supervised work, and your supervisor will progressively reduce the support, but monitor the outputs of what you are doing. Level D, contributing. Now you're performing specific work with detailed approval of your work output. So only your outputs that are now being detailed. Full responsibility to your supervisor for your quality of work. That's a responsibility that you're now taking. And the applicant or candidate articulates their own reasoning and compare it to those of the supervisor. And then ultimately, level E, performing. So here, the nature of the work is that you would work in a team without supervision. You would recommend work outputs, and you would be responsible for your work. However, you are not accountable. So everybody often says, oh, but I can only be responsible once I am registered, which is not correct. You can take the responsibility for your work, but the accountability is only taken by those who are registered with the Engineering Council. So your responsibility you would be taking at level E is responsible to your supervisor, and it's approved as appropriate to that of a registered person. And then the support you would be getting is the applicant takes on the problem solving without support, at most with some limited guidance. So effectively you are now working shoulder to shoulder with your professional counterparts or your registered counterparts. You are effectively just not quite, or you just now need to then go and get your registration process through to ECSA. Okay, then as you go on, also you have a progression in your competence. So it's not only your responsibility that increases, but also your level of competence. So starting off, you would come into the workplace with, at best, an appreciation. So the applicant must indicate that they have a general appreciation of the subject matter. This would then grow into knowledge, where you would have sufficient knowledge of the subject matter. Experience, applicants must indicate that they have, independently or under supervision, performed the processes under consideration. Experience of the relevant techniques and functions must be gained. Then ultimately you reach a level of capability, and the applicant must indicate that they have the capability, independently or at most with limited guidance, of performing the process and making the decisions required, and also that they have the capability of leading or supervising others in the process. So if I take, for instance, something that none of the specified categories actually work with, and we talk about dealing with stormwater. So we all know that we've got bridges and culverts and these kind of structures that allows water to pass under our road. So that is a level of appreciation. You understand that there is rain, and the water rain from one side of the road needs to somehow pass under the road in order to get to the other side and not dam up and eventually flood and then maybe wash away the road. Once you start gaining the knowledge, you would know then that there are different methods of determining the return flood period. It's a function of the class of road that you are dealing with. It's a function of the area of how big the area is that collects the water that would be needed to be catered for under the dam, under the road into the bridge. Those are the things that you now become knowledgeable about. Experience is where you start actually calculating the amount of runoff that you need to cater for. So now you're starting to perform the processes under consideration. Okay, so you're actually determining what the rainfall is, looking at the statistical analysis of past rainfall, determining which method is the best one to use, and actually start doing that. And then capability would be then when you are given a position on the road, and you would then go and determine what the catchment area is, what the water or the rainfall in that area is, all the way through to calculating what they call QMEG, your maximum quantity of water that needs to be catered for, depending on the class of road, the type of rainfall you have, etc., etc. So that is how the process of progression through competency levels actually work. Okay, so then what is the characteristics of a specifically defined problem? Because we were going on earlier about outcomes 1 and 2 dealing with specifically defined engineering problems. Outcome 1 being defining, investigating, and planning how to deal with this problem, and then ultimately finding out exactly what the problem is, and then outcome number 2, finding solutions for the problems and comparing the solutions and options, and systematically then synthesizing these options to the point where you can say which you think is the best. So what is an engineering problem? Well, can the problem be solved mainly with specific practical engineering knowledge that is underpinned by related theory? So that is, for it to be an engineering problem, you need practical engineering knowledge. The nature of the problem must have one or more of B, C, or D. The problems are fully defined but may require feedback. Problems are discrete, focused tasks within engineering systems, and problems are routine, frequently encountered, and in familiar, specified, and sustainable context. What is encountered in solving the problem, so in the solution process, it must be one or more of E to H. The solutions can be solved with standard prescribed ways, or encompassed by specific standards, codes, legislation, documented procedures, required authorization to work outside of these limits of the specific standards and codes. The solution information is concrete, specific, and largely complete, but requires checking and possibly a little bit of supplementation. And then the solutions involve specific issues, but are few, and these imposing conflicting. So there's few that have conflicting constraints and a specific range of interests and affected parties. And then lastly, what is involved in decision making while solving the problem and in evaluating the solutions. So the problem must be have at least one of the following criteria or characteristics. The decisions require practical judgment in specific practice areas of evaluating solutions and considered interfaces with other role players, and or have consequences that are locally important but within the specified category, so wider impacts are dealt with by others. So that is what a specified engineering problem, a specifically defined engineering problem is. So various of the other outcomes, we had quite a number of outcomes that refer to specifically defined engineering activities. So these specifically defined engineering activities are characterized by the following aspects. The scope of specific practice area is defined by specific techniques applied, changed by adopting new specific techniques into current practice. Practice areas are located within a wider, complex context with specifically defined working relationship with other parties and disciplines. Work involves specific familiar resources, including people, money, equipment, materials, and technologies. Require resolution of interaction manifested between specific technical factors with limited wider impacts. Are constrained by operational context, defined work packages, time, finance, infrastructure, resources, facilities, standards, and codes, and then applicable laws. Have risks and consequences that are locally important, but are specifically defined. So the impact of the work is only of local importance. Moving on then. I love this slide. Only an engineering practitioner can come up with something like this. Absolutely amazing. So if we look at the left of the screen, so the candidate registration process diagram is there's an administrative screening. So if you've got the applicable higher certificate in engineering, you would be able to register as a candidate, and the CEO has a delegated approval to actually register or refuse a candidate's candidacy application. That's not really the one we're here for. We're here for the process that is involved or that comes from R03 related to registration in a specified category. So you would submit your application with your necessary qualification, recognition of prior learning, and your experience and training. Having been trained and having the necessary experience. So once admin has screened it, and Donald will touch on it a little bit later on what they what are involved in the screening process. Once that is complete, there's an experiential appraisal going to happen, and these are done by 4 registered peers in the category which you are applying for. If the competency indicated, so at this point in time, we're looking to see whether you're able to indicate that you have the necessary competence. If you have indicated that you have the necessary competence, or rather, it gets sent to a moderator, and the moderator would look at what the assessors had found in terms of their competence, whether it's competence indicated or competency not indicated on the various outcomes. So the moderation is once again 1 or 2 registered peers, people within the industry which you are working are registered. So then if 3 or more of the assessors had indicated competency indicated, the moderator would sign that off and it would pass the EA phase. So let's keep on going with a good news story side of things, if and then we can look at the other various loops and circles this thing can get into. Once the moderator for the experiential appraisal has signed off and recommended passing the EA stage, moving to the professional review stage or the PR stage, here you would have an interview with 3 of your peers that are registered within the category that you're registering for. And if after the interview, each one of them actually completes their own evaluation sheet that they then submit back to ECSA. ECSA sends it to 2 moderators, could be 3 moderators, who then go through the whole process that your application has gone through, make sure that everything has happened in accordance with R03, and if they are then satisfied with regards to the whole process and that your competency has been demonstrated. So now we're not talking about competency indicated, we're saying competency demonstrated. Then that would go on to the registration process finalization and communication via admin. Okay, so that's the easy route. However, should your application have been found to be not indicating your competence successfully, you could be called for an interview in which 2 or more of your registered peers would have an interview with you and have a look at maybe it's just the way that you completed your application that didn't really quite demonstrate or indicate your competence. That when after that interview, it would once again go back to moderation, and the moderators would decide then what to do with the application further. Alternatively, from the moderation, EA moderation, you could also go in the direction of abeyance. So if you are kept in abeyance, there would be you would be advised through a letter that indicates to you which outcomes you need to get more experience in so that you can pass the experiential appraisal phase. That would then give you an opportunity of up to 12 months to get the necessary experience and then resubmit without additional cost or registration fees for the process then to start over again with an appraisal of your original and your post-abeyance application. If you pass the experiential appraisal moderation and then fail your professional review, there's only one answer, and that is competency not demonstrated. Okay, so then that is a negative that comes from that. If you then also have your professional review and things didn't go so well, the moderator would indicate that competency is not demonstrated. That application would then go to Central Registration Committee of ECSA, which is what is referred to as an high impact committee at the council, and that decision would then be endorsed, and you would be notified by administration accordingly. If you are refused, the applicant can reapply. We would also then have what we call what is it called? Advisory interview. Yes. This slide actually should have that we have an advisory interview before you actually have an appeal. So ECSA would go and set up with somebody that was part of your process of evaluation that indicated that you did not make the grade. One or two of those or 3 of those people that was part of your panel of assessors, moderators, reviewers, or interviewers would then sit down and indicate and have a conversation on what is wrong. Thereafter, if the applicant feels that the registration process was not followed in accordance with R03, they can lodge an appeal. The appeal is then heard in a where the presiding officer at the hearing would be a legal practitioner, not an engineering practitioner. So you would have a lawyer as the person that sits and hears the evidence and determines whether the application was then indeed not processed correctly. If the applicant is then not, they can escalate it to the full council, and if they're still not happy, then they could escalate their appeal to the Council for Built Environment. Okay, there is a substantial fee that is with the appeal process that goes along with that, and generally it's only in very, very exceptional circumstances that the process is then actually found to be not followed correctly. So ECSA is doing its best to make sure that the necessary processes are followed, and that we are indeed in line with the Constitution that says we must be fair, transparent, and equitable in everything that we do for ECSA. Okay, as I said, only an engineer could come up with a slide like this, or an engineering practitioner. Okay, so then what is your ECSA registration certificate look like? Well, there's the Engineering Council of South Africa name at the top. Next down there, you've got the ECSA logo. Where is my cursor? All over the show. Okay, there would be your name, your registration category, your registration date, your registration number, signatures of the president of council and the chief executive officer of ECSA. There is a barcode, a profile number, the embossment, and then there's also a hyperlink at the bottom. So you would be able to scan the QR code and be able to get an electronic version shown to you of what is originally published by ECSA as the registration certificate. Yeah, then how to certify for digital registration. So as an interim measure, the two people, legal persons at the ECSA office that can commission a copy of your digital certificate. This provision is found in Section 18 of the Electronic Communications and Transactions Act of 2002. So for any confirmation of registration and or registration topics, certificates, Mr. Zwelabanzi Langa is a registration officer that you can contact for that, and Mrs. Tsepang Malepele is the assistant manager for registration department with her address. So no point in sending them an email now if you submitted in July and you want to know how far your application is. There's no point in sending them an email yet. They will need to go through that previous slides of very long, lengthy processes to get back to you. Okay, so then lastly, the relationship between ECSA and voluntary associations. So ECSA's function is to set standards, to accredit academic programs, to register professional or competent practitioners, to regulate the professional through professional conduct, to act in the interest of the public, and to advise government on matters relating to engineering. Your voluntary associations, those are the ones that tie in with or looks at specific areas within the much bigger engineering fraternity, and acts as an association for those specific, or societies for those specific ones. Myself, I'm a member of the Society for Asphalt Technology because I happen to like road construction materials. And that would then also be the kind of category of, the kind of voluntary association that the civil laboratory technical controllers would have benefit in being part of. So that's the kind of relationship. ECSA recognizes the voluntary associations, and if you're a member of a voluntary association, you are able to claim a CPD point per year for being part of that association. So that is able to assist you as a member. Then also your voluntary association would be hosting professional development accredited programs or activities that you would then also be able to participate in and maintain your professional development. Then also they recommend peers on request, so ECSA may approach the society or the association where you would have specific, for instance, aeronautical engineering is a very small community within our overall fraternity of engineering practitioners. So ECSA would approach that association for recommendation for assessors, reviewers, moderators, etc., to assist with the registration process. Okay, so the Engineering Council is a legislated body that exists because the Engineering Act of 2000 gives them, was felt that the engineering industry or profession should be regulated. By the way, the first Engineering Act was not published in 2000. Our industry has been regulated for much longer than that. The Act of 2000 repealed the previous Act, so hence we only refer to the current and latest Act. And yeah, they provide ECSA with the authority to do what they need to do to maintain the professions, our profession, and to serve the community and public at large. So thank you very much. That is my presentation done. I'm very happy to take questions.
Okay, we have a hand from Gamba. Please unmute and take so we can take your questions. Mrs. Stradum, do you want to take a few questions first? Then you answer them, or are we doing on a one-on-one, and then that's how we're gonna move on?
I would prefer one question at a time.
Okay.
Yeah, my memory isn't good enough to do multiple questions.
Okay, no worries. Okay.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My question, I just need a clarification in terms of the refereeing, because on the application it says that we need to have 3 referee, but the last time I think someone did indicate that we can only have 1 referee registered, but we need to have 2 supervisors. So there's still a confusion on that.
Okay. So from my understanding is that you need 3 referees, of which at least 1 must be registered. Okay. With not necessarily within the category that you are registering in. So for instance, I may have a PR-Eng as a referee, even though I'm not applying to be a professional engineer. Okay, so similarly, you may have a supervisor or a mentor that is not necessarily specific to your category, but is still able to provide ECSA with the necessary input and understanding. Okay, the whole concept that ECSA uses is that of peer review. In other words, it is the people that are on the same level as what you are going to be practicing that actually does the assessment on behalf of council. So that said, you need to have 3, but only 1 needs to be registered. And you should have your current supervisor also as a referee. So it's not to say that you must have more than 1 supervisor, but your supervisor must. And if your supervisor is also registered, the other 2 referees need not be registered.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, the next hand is from Thompson. Please unmute and ask your question.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for the presentation. It was very informative. Just my case is a slight bit funny. I am actually resident in South Africa, but I am a chartered engineer from Ireland back in 2007. And basically I've been I haven't worked in South Africa, but I work overseas. I'm actually calling in from Saudi Arabia at the moment. But my question is, I was deemed not to have worked. My application was rejected because I was deemed not to have worked in South Africa, but I've worked all over the world on airports. But how do I go forward to move forward to try? Because I do live in South Africa and I would like to become a professional engineer with ECSA. How do I move forward to I obviously I'm not going to be working in South Africa for the next year at least. How do I go and move forward to someone to deem that I have the applicable experience for South Africa?
Yeah. So in terms of okay, I actually, because this was aimed specifically at specified categories, I'd taken the slides dealing with the International Engineering Alliance and the associations or agreements and accords that ECSA has with the International Engineering Alliance. I actually took out. So my recommendation is, first off, go have a look on ECSA's website with related to the the IAE, the International Engineering Alliance, because we are signatories to the Washington Accord for Professional Engineers, the Sydney Accord for Professional Technologists, and the Dublin Accord for Professional Technicians. In terms of recognizing the qualifications. So you would automatically, with your Irish qualification, if it is an accredited qualification under Engineers Ireland, you would have recognition of your qualification by ECSA. And then also, I am registered on the International Register of Professional Engineering Technologists with in the Engineering Alliance. There's also mutual recognition of it used to be called mobility the mobility agreements. But yeah, so you can become an international chartered engineer of Ireland, and then you would automatically be regarded as a peer in South Africa by the engineering fraternity.
Yeah, just if someone could come back to me, because I am chartered back in Ireland in 2007.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I have not worked in South Africa. I worked all over the world, but unfortunately, I don't have South African experience. But if there is someone there that's on the line from ECSA that can come back to me and advise me how I can move forward, because let's say if I want to apply for a job in South Africa, ECSA is a must, and there's just if someone from ECSA can come back and advise me if someone's on the call there, yeah, if that's possible.
Thanks. Yeah, I think maybe also the voluntary association that governs, or you say you worked at airports. Is it in runways or
Yeah,
in
infrastructure.
the
Infrastructure, yes.
Okay.
Runways, taxiways, yeah.
So I think my suggestion would be to contact SAICI, South African Institute for Civil Engineering, and get their because they have a mentoring and training program. So there are people in SAICI that are very well versed with ECSA's processes and programs that would be able to possibly assist you.
Okay, let me try that. Yeah, okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And the next hand is Tasneem.
Hello, I'm not Tasneem. I'm Tony Lewis, but hello, Sean.
Hi, Tony. How are you doing?
No, doing all right, thanks. Sean, thanks for your presentation. Just one thing I wanted to ask you. With the different documents you have mentioned now in your presentation, you've talked about all the specified category documents. But there's another series, obviously, that is the professional category documents. Why do you go for the specified category and not the professional category documents?
Because I was asked to present road to registration for specified categories. So the purpose of this webinar specifically was looking at specified categories. So all of the documentation that I was referencing came from ECSA in the presentation from ECSA as the PR documents, which I then had to go and just make sure that I've got all the same numbers as for the specified categories. So okay. Yes, the full suite of documents for the various engineering categories, professional categories are also available on ECSA's website, and they are very similarly structured to the slideshow which I showed with the relationships between them, except that the education standards document has a different number for professional categories than it has for specified categories.
Okay, so we're putting together a guideline because we've got a number of people that are now registering as candidates, and obviously we want to provide them guidance and mentoring and that sort of thing. Should I use, for the guideline, should I use the PC or the SC as a guideline?
If they are technicians, technologists, or engineers, yes, they use the PC. If they are lift inspectors, lifting machinery inspectors, civil laboratory technical controllers, glazing, road safety auditors, all of those would be specified categories.
Thank you very much for that clarification. That makes life a lot easier. Go well, Sean.
Thank you, Tony. Take care.
Next hand is Thokozani.
Morning. Thank you for presenting this. Really appreciate it. So my question is actually on the qualification for EXA. So I'm currently I'm an aspiring engineer, but I've also worked I've got experience working as an engineer, but I have currently completed my higher certificate in electrical engineering from Tshwane, TUT. My question was, at work currently, they wanted me to actually start registering as with EXA, but now I'm doing my also qualification in BEng Tech in electrical engineering, of which I'm completing this year as well. But now I wanted advice in actually how would I go about? Should I start registering with um um using my current qualification, or should I wait? Which of the specified uh, categories will I fall under when I register with my higher certificate in electrical, or would I have to wait and complete my qualification? And as well as my last question will be, there's because I'm currently working. I've worked as a graduate engineer at one of the biggest telecoms in South Africa, MTN, and as well as worked as solar engineer, of which I do have plus minus 5 years experience in working as a trainee or slash intern, working closely with engineers and as well as within the electrical engineering space within heavy current, light, and telecoms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first question with regards to the qualification. So
Yeah.
the higher certificate in in electrical engineering at
Yeah.
TUT, as far as I know, is not EXA accredited.
Okay.
And the reason I think is because it actually does not link directly to any of the specified categories.
Okay.
So the lift inspectors, lifting machinery inspectors, medical equipment maintainers, all of those do have an electrical engineering connection,
Yeah.
but it's not pure electrical. It's somewhere between electrical and mechanical. So possibly you would be able to register as a candidate in that category, but
Okay.
I would say it makes a lot more sense for you to hold out until you have your BEng Tech so you can register as a candidate technologist.
Okay.
Okay. Then
And
with regards to your
yeah.
the experience that you have prior to achieving your benchmark qualification. Okay. So because you have not had your benchmark qualification does not mean that your experience is worthless. Okay. So the however, you need to go and have a very hard look at your own experience and see if you can take it and line it up with the definitions that ECSA have for broadly defined engineering activities. Okay, so
Okay.
because with your BEng, that would be the benchmark for technologists. So I would say go and have a look at the broadly defined engineering activities and how much of that you actually do have competence in already from the experience that you have. So if you have been working on a lower level of complexity um, than what EXA requires for the category that you want to register in, that is not going to count full number of years towards your experience. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you were doing a technician's work, but you want to register as a technologist, that technician's work isn't quite as relevant as the work that a technologist would be doing. Okay. Within the electrical field, that's as much as I can say. I can possibly help you a bit more if it was civil, but that's pretty much what I can help you with. Yeah.
Okay. Just the last one. How do you search for institution if their qualification are accredited with ECSA?
Yeah, ECSA publishes a list of accredited qualifications and updates them every year. So they are under documents on ECSA's website. I think it's E21. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it's E21. But they do publish them. So you can just, on that documents tab, just scroll through and you would be able to find them.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
The next hand is from Simiso Gushe. Please unmute and go. Simiso Gushe. Okay, we can move on to Amberlyn.
Morning all. Thank you very much for the detailed presentation, Sean. It helps greatly. My question is a bit of a strange one. So I've got a mechanical engineering degree from UNISA, BTech, and since 2016 till 2019, I've been in the HVAC industry and refrigeration industry. But then retrenchments happened, and I find myself for the last 5 years in project management. Can I submit my reports based on the experience between 2016 or 2019, or is there a time limit?
No, there is no time limit, but it does become somewhat more challenging the longer you wait. So for my sins, my day job involves working at a academy, which we are looking to get ECSA certified. So we get candidate engineers, technicians, technologists, and we train them up, and we're looking at fast tracking the registration. And we also have the guys that's been in the academy that's gone into project management and been in there for 2 years, and then they start finding it more and more difficult to actually get themselves so far as to actually register with the Engineering Council. So I think one or two, maybe a word of advice: yes, you can register with any experience that you have, however far back it is. Just be very mindful that you will be required to demonstrate yourself to have the necessary technical prowess when you are actually getting to the professional review stage. So the interview that you will have in your professional review is something that you would need to be prepared for, and make sure that you can still practice as an engineering practitioner, even though you're not doing it currently.
Okay. Okay. So as a follow-up, my experience before my BTech, does that also count?
I think similar to the previous question, yes.
Yes.
So the experience that you have, once again, just it needs to be at the level of a technologist.
Okay.
So a lot of when we did not have the B-Eng Tech, when we had the BTech and the diploma, a lot of the guys with the diploma working in industry doing BTech part-time, and then they say, okay, but from when I finish my diploma, that experience should count towards my technologist registration. Doesn't really work like that, because you don't necessarily working at the technologist level. So it's just making sure that what you convey, you are actually at the required level of complexity. that you are claiming the experience for.
Okay, thanks, Sean.
Welcome.
Okay, Smisogule, are you ready with your question? Okay, then we are moving to Lifa.
Hello, thanks for the presentation, Sean. I just wanted to confirm something regarding the referees, because on the latest application form for registration, it's indicated that it must be 2 referees who are aware of the applicant's work or experience. And also in my case, I'm currently, because I've done the report until work that was done until early this year, until like February. And I've changed employers. So my current supervisor is not aware of the work that's on my report.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
you've indicated earlier on that the supervisor must be one of your referees.
Yeah. Okay. So the requirement for who you can or should have for referees is fairly well put out in the application form. Okay, so if I do contradict what is in the application form, I apologize. But I am actually just looking to quickly scroll through and maybe find the application form for one of the okay, let's try this one. I just want to read through what the document actually says, and hopefully all the specified categories is referee requirements are the same. I think it would be. So I just want to quickly get to that page in this application form. So Donald is going to go through the documents with you a little bit later, so that if I don't find it now when we go through the document, I'll verify it. But yes,
Okay.
If you change employers, it is something that it's not to say your application now. Your current supervisor should be one of your referees. So even though they might not have known you for as long, they can still give their current opinion on it. Ideally, you want to have at least one referee that's known you for more than 3 years. So it's and if that person would be then signing your referee report as a mentor, so that would actually be quite useful. But yeah, you can even get your colleagues or your clients to be a referee. So it's not to say that it must be only supervisors, but your current supervisor should be one of your referees.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Before we move on to the next question, colleagues, we're going to put up a QR code for you guys to please scan so that you can stay connected with us on our social media platforms. So you can just follow us there if you're not already following us to get updates on the latest news and events. And also it's in the chat if you prefer to do it that way. So the next question is from Mutudi.
Sean, my question is based on the degree of responsibility. For some of us who has a lot of experience in several laboratories, how will you rate or categorize the position in the laboratory to this degree of responsibility. For an example, in the laboratory, we will have AMT, MT, SMTs, and then trainee laboratory manager, and then we will have your lab manager and senior. So how would you put them in this degree of responsibility?
So the specified category level is fairly close to that of a laboratory manager. So, but as a senior materials tester, you would be able to certainly claim a fairly high level of responsibility. If you are, it's about how much supervision and how much guidance you need in order to do the things that you need to do. So I think it's important to just bear the degree of responsibility is not, to me, that's fairly well put together in terms of the ECSA documentation. The degree of development or the level of competence and the complexity of the work that you're doing, that is where you should be focusing your so in terms of the responsibility in the laboratory for the work that is being conducted can be at a level E, but it can be that you are doing work that does not require the necessary level of remember I mentioned the engineering activities and the types of problems that you need to be able to solve. It might be that the problems you're solving is not engineering problems at that level of that is specifically defined. It might be more practical. Then that would not be helping you, that you're at level E, but you're only doing practically defined work.
Okay. One request. I don't know if I heard that you will be sharing the application form. So I think my question will be after that, if you can share the application with us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, Donald will be going through the application form, but I will be online during that and available still afterwards also with for questions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to Tsewo Mutsamai.
Good morning, and thanks, Sean, for the presentation. I have a question. I've been I'm a foreign national. I'm actually from Lesotho, but I've been registered with the Engineering Council of South Africa since 2017 as a candidate engineering technologist. So now, most of my co-workers here at work, or even my supervisors, are not ECSA registered. So I've also worked in South Africa, but as a technician for a year and 6 months. And then in that period, I acquired a lot of knowledge from the site that I was working at, and the people that were supervising me at the time are ECSA registered. So now, when completing my reports, I tried as much as possible to work with them because they are ECSA registered. But now I'm a bit confused because the level of experience that I got back then was a diploma level type of work. But also I did a bit of research in that time, such that I was even given a position that was above a diploma position, and I actually had to be put through BTech at that level. But then came the HR policies that also got me out of the system because I'm a foreign national. So now I want to know if I can put in the work that I'm currently doing here in the report. Okay, well, I actually have the latest report or the latest assignment with someone who's ECSA registered in the company that I'm in right now in Lesotho. But most of the practicals are also from the diploma qualification, because those people are ECSA registered. I only have one practical right now that I'm busy with that I've put in the report. So I just want to know if that is going to work out for me, or maybe I can include the work that I've done also this side with the people who are not ECSA registered, and also my supervisor this side is, in terms of qualification, he still holds a diploma. So I'm not sure if I can put in our work.
Yeah. So let me quickly just unpack it a little bit. So when you, part of your application, or two main parts of your application, one is your training experience reports, or TERs. In the case, if you've got more than 10 years experience, you may do a TEO, or training experience overview, for the work that you did earlier in your career. Okay. The TER, your training experience report, gets signed off by the supervisor you worked for at that time. There's a place for their ECSA registration and their registration number, and then for their signature. If, however, your supervisor is not ECSA registered, that does not mean that that experience that you got was not relevant. Okay, so in your training experience report, you would describe what it is that you did, and the assessor would then judge whether that would be complex, broadly defined, well defined, specifically defined, or how they would reckon that is. Then your engineering report covers what you've done in your career overall. Okay, so you do not necessarily need to only in your engineering report refer to work that you did working under a professional, or that you did last year, or within a specific time frame that's very recent, or something like that. So the two things, and then your engineering report gets signed off by your current supervisor. I have seen where applicants have had two signatures at the bottom of the engineering report. So they had two supervisors sign. The previous supervisor who oversaw some of the work that they're reporting on, and the current supervisor that oversaw other work that they're also putting into their report. So you can have that if that makes your supervisor more comfortable in countersigning because your previous supervisor also signed it. But that is not necessary. It just asks that your current supervisor signs your engineering report. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, it makes sense. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, we're moving on to Viwe.
Good morning. Thank you, Sean, for the informative presentation. Actually, my question relates to the referees. So in a case where now the referees are do not hold any engineering qualification, what do you do? For instance, in my case, I do have gentlemen here in my company that are not under my department though, but their qualification are lower than mine. For instance, they have diploma, and then I'm doing a master's now. So what can I do in that case? Thank you.
Okay. So I found on the referee guideline, it says Each applicant must, with the permission of the persons concerned, supply the counts with the names and addresses of a maximum of 3 referees. So it's a maximum of 3 and it's a minimum of 2 who have the personal knowledge of the applicant's work. At least one referee must be registered with ECSA as either a registered specified category practitioner, a professional engineering technician, professional engineering technologist, a professional certificated engineer, or a professional engineer, and then of which one should be a direct supervisor. Okay, so you can have 3 referees, you can have 2 referees, or 3. If your current supervisor has not known you for say about 6 months or less, then I would suggest that you ask your previous supervisor to also be a referee. Okay. If your supervisor is not registered, one of your other 2 referees must be registered. And that referees can be a mentor, a supervisor, a mentor, an indirect supervisor. In other words, somebody in your company that is a supervisor of a different department, but that has personal knowledge of your work. Okay, so that is a very important part. They have personal knowledge of the applicant's work, but it might be a colleague as well. So it does not necessarily have to be somebody that is higher up in the organization than what you are. And it also does not mean that if I'm a professional or applicant technologist, but I only have professional technicians that I work with, that professional technician can be my referee. Okay, it should preferably be somebody that's on the same level that you're applying for. But if that person happens to not be on the same level, then it's not a train smash. Okay, you won't be regarded as or your application will not be regarded as not valid. Okay. So I was started earlier a little bit on the peer review and what does that mean. So the first people that actually does a review of your work and your readiness to register is your referees. Okay, so when I get an application and I go look at the referees, I also remember that people are people. So you might not be your supervisor's favorite employee. So he might not give you a fair report. Okay, so that kind of thing one needs to also take into consideration when you do the evaluations. It's like so the assessors that you can choose to be part of your registration process is your referees that you choose. Okay, so those are the first guys that actually, or ladies, that actually put the assessment of your engineering prowess forward. Then it's the assessors that ECSA have on their roster of assessors. Then it's the professional review panel that will interview you. So there's if you've got 2 referees, 3 assessors, and 2 reviewers, you've got 7 people, and then you've got 3 moderators. That's 10 people whose opinions are taken into consideration ultimately in seeing whether you get registered or not. Okay, so that's why choosing your referees carefully is important, but at the same time, if your referees don't all have higher registered or all of those kind of things, then it's not an issue. I just quickly see in the chat there's 1 or 2 questions. Are we going to go to those questions later, or yeah? I think maybe first
We're gonna
go on with the hands.
Yes, I just wanted to complete the hands. The last one would be Eric, and then we will move on to the chat section and then the Q&A section, and then we're going to go through it in that way. So the next hand is Bam.
Hi, hey everyone. Thank you for the
Oh,
presentation.
sorry, Eric, you're going to be the last hand. So I'm just saying I'm closing
Okay.
off the hands, and then after the hands, you're going to be the last one. And then we're going to move into chats. And then from chat, we're also going to jump into the Q&A session, and then we're going to move on with the session. But the next hand is Bam's hand. Thank you.
Good day, all.
Morning.
I don't have a question. Actually, I have a request. I just wanted to ask if would you please kindly give us recordings if you do have because I think someone did the record. If you
Yes,
might.
the recording will be shared. The recording will be shared with everyone who's in attendance.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Okay. Pleasure. Matthew?
Hi, all. No, thank you very much for the presentation. I just have a question. So I've going to register as a mechanical engineer, and I've previously was endorsed at my previous company for mining engineering, which involved heating and ventilation. Then I moved into the building sector, which I've also been professionally endorsed for. But in terms of my final report, it gets a bit confusing because there are two slightly different sectors. Is it a problem, or should I only write on the report on which field I'm applying? So in other words, should I only write my final report for buildings, which I'll be professionally registering for?
Okay, thanks for a very interesting question. The question is very simple, actually. It is yes. You've put in all your experience. Whatever experience you have that best demonstrates your competence against an outcome, that is what you provide the assessors with. Okay, so similarly for in civil engineering, if I had worked on a structure in structures design office, but then I moved over to construction supervision, and I worked on site now, overseeing the building of roads. Both those sections of my experience are relevant.
Okay, now thank you. Then I just also have another question in terms of the TRs we completed. So I've probably had about 6 years experience now, and the TRs I completed in my first year, the format since for ECSA has slightly changed, and all those TRs all been PDF. Is that a problem, or must I?
No, it's not a problem at all. No, if your TR for 5 years ago has been signed off and ECSA completely changes the format, you leave your signed off document and submit that.
Okay, thank you. I just have one last question before I resolve. And in terms of the professional endorsements, which actually when you submit your process, so previously on the previous documents, they had to post their appraisal, their review of you independently with your application. How does the new process work? Do they email it independently from you, or do you compile their review in your document which you send off? I'm just not sure how that exactly works.
Okay. No, the referees email their assessment of you directly, or endorsement if you choose to use that. So they email it to engineer@exa.co.za. Okay. And then I don't want to step on the registration officer's toes, but if you know already who your registration officer is, by the time you advise your referees, you may just maybe ask them to CC in that registration officer so that it doesn't delay the process in getting it from the centralized email address into the relevant registration officer's inbox.
And at what point in time do they actually email them? Only once you've handed in your application, or is it simultaneously?
It's you submit your application, or let me put it this way. I have been asked to by some of the mentees that we've got to be a referee for them, and then as soon as they tell me that they have submitted, I would then look to get mine in as soon as possible, not to delay the registration process. But it doesn't have to be specifically on the same day or within the same week, or they first and then you. That doesn't really matter.
Okay. No, thank you very much, Shane. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Eric, you may go.
Good morning, everyone. Sean, thank you for your presentation. I got a couple of questions here. The first one is currently I'm registered as candidate engineer. I got a diploma in electronics, but I've been working in the telecommunication industry for a few years now, for more than 15 years. I will up now to register as a professional engineer technician. Is that possible? That is my first question.
So you have a diploma and 15 years experience. So if that should be ample to get you registered as a professional engineering technician. If you've been operating at a broadly defined level of engineering, you may even consider applying as a professional engineering technologist.
Okay, thank you. And the second question is regarding the referees. How many referees should I have? Or
A minimum of 2 and a maximum of 3.
Okay, and all those referees must be registered with ECSA or not?
You have to have at least one that is registered as either the same or higher category than what you are applying for, and also one must be your direct supervisor. So it's not to say that the one that is registered must be your supervisor. It's just saying it's a minimum of 2, maximum of 3. One of them must be registered and one of them must be your supervisor.
Okay, on the number of referees, let's say like if I got 3 referees and one also can still be my mentor.
Correct.
And that mentor need to be registered with ECSA at the level that I want to be registered, right?
No. We only ask that one of your referees must be registered. It doesn't say which one. So your mentor may be somebody that is not registered, maybe somebody that's registered in a different category. So I am mentor to professional engineering candidates, even though I'm a technologist.
Okay. But I can choose on, let's say like if my mentor is registered as a engineering professional, can I still use it? Can I still use him as a referee as well?
Yes. So your mentors, your supervisors, your colleagues. I saw one the other day which I thought was I had to smile. The lady's husband was her mentor, and also then asked to be a referee, and it made to me perfect sense because he was her mentor. She started working in the same industry as what he is in, and there's no reason why he can't be her mentor. It just needs to be declared on the form that they do have a marital relationship, and it's not an issue.
Okay. And if I got you properly, meaning on the 3 referee that I can get, only one need to be registered with ECSA as a profession on the same level which I want to register.
Correct.
And the two others, they don't have to be registered with ECSA, but they have to be like my supervisor or the client side.
At least one supervisor, but that's it. So you can have, there is a list of people that can act as your referee, and it effectively just indicates that it's an employer, it's a supervisor. So for instance, if I work for before I went to study, I worked for a building contractor, but it was just me and the old man working together. He wasn't registered, but he was my employer. So I needed to, if I was then looking to get that experience as part of my submission, I could put that in and he could sign as my supervisor because that is what he was, even if he wasn't registered. So that person can still have been my mentor till today, and I can have him as my mentor do the referee report as well. That's perfectly acceptable.
Okay, meaning I can still also use like two people which are like on my client side to be like my referees, plus one mentor which is my my direct engineer department, my chief engineer in the department.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And if I may ask, the last one is on the role of the referees. What are they gonna assist me with in this journey to be completed?
Okay, so your referees, you select when you are ready to register, and you then ask them if they would be willing to be referees, and then you provide them with the form that they need to fill in, and they fill in the form and send it direct to ECSA. And then as an assessor, when I receive your application to assess on behalf of ECSA, your referees would be part of the pack that I receive, and I would regard them as peers who have indicated what they believe your competence is. So it's part of the registration process. It's not necessarily part of your road to registration development, if that makes sense.
Yes, and what the name of the form that the referee needs to fill?
It's part of the application form. It is form number R03 REF SC.
R03
REF
REF
dash SC.
That's SC.
Yeah.
Okay. And the last one is on the role of the mentor.
So the role of the mentor is there the mentor should be somebody that is helping you, making sure that your daily work and tasks that you are doing is in line with your career development towards registration.
Okay.
So they should be somebody that you can engage with to assist you to make sure that you do have you are gaining the relevant experience and enough of the depth of the experience in that type of work so that it ultimately can lead to your registration.
Okay, that's great then. And on these three people, I have to get my registration done. Only one need to be registered with ECSA.
Yeah. Correct.
Okay, is what I wanted to get as like clarity. I don't have to wait for all of them to be registered with ECSA. Only one need to be registered with ECSA. I can proceed with my application.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much, Sean. Thank you for clarity.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Thanks, man. Bye.
Okay, colleagues, in interest of time, we're not going to take any more hands. We're just going to see if maybe by the end of the session, we do have a bit of time. I hope Mr. Strydom will still be with us then, and then we'll see if maybe some of your questions are not answered now during the Q&A and thingy session when we're going via chat. Yeah, can we please do that for now? And we're going to move on to chat. And then after chat, we're going to move to Q&A sessions. If you can you quickly then rather put your questions there? If not, alternatively, we'll try field your questions at the end of the session. So some of the few questions on chat have been housekeeping, but one came through from one dealer who's asking, if I have worked in the engineering field for more than 10 years and have registered previously as a candidate technician, have recently registered as a candidate technologist, but have graduated in 2017, am I eligible to register as a professional? Mr. Strydom?
Your qualification and experience is adequate, so that should not be. So the short answer is yes, you are eligible to submit your application. I can't tell you you're eligible to register because I haven't seen what kind of experience you have. So yes, you're eligible to apply, and should your competence be at the right level, then you will be registered as a professional.
Okay, I hope that was satisfactory, Wandile. And then Wesley is asking, how long does one have to be registered for in order to be a referee? And can someone registered last month be a referee?
Yes, you can. You don't have to be have any amount of experience or time as a registered person to be a referee. You also don't have to be. There's no limitation on at least just one of your referees must be registered.
Okay, I hope I'm not going to butcher your name. It's Chifiwa. And they're asking, do I have to register as a candidate if I have more than 3 years experience? Does graduate experience count? And then follow up onto that, do I need to provide anything as proof for my experience?
Okay, so the first question I am going to not answer because I don't know specifically whether you have to register as a candidate or not before you can register as a professional. By my experience, you don't have to. Your graduate experience does count, but as I'd explained earlier, it's not to say that it is at the level of complexity that it would be of real value for you to have that in. Do I need to provide proof of experience? Yes, you need to fill in the training experience report for all the training that you want to, or all the experience that you want to claim.
Okay, Tariq is asking, are you able to move from professional technologist to professional engineer?
The answer is yes. Has it been done? No.
Okay.
So the pathway is there, but it hasn't been successfully done as far as I know yet.
Okay, I think you've touched on this one, but I think it will serve the colleagues well if maybe you can touch base on it. So the question is from Moloko, and they're asking, is there a difference between a supervisor, referee, and a mentor?
Okay, so your mentor and your supervisor can be the same person. It does not necessarily have to be, but it can be. You don't necessarily have to have a mentor. But you must have a supervisor because you, as an unregistered person, you have to work under the supervision of somebody that is able to take the accountability. So you must have a supervisor, or the supervisor must be registered. But you cannot not have a supervisor. And then your referee can be anybody that has knowledge of your work experience. So it can be your mentor, it can be your supervisor, and it can also be a colleague or a client.
Okay, thank you. And then Marco is asking, could I add experience/responsibility on a project in my TER that was gained before my BTEC qualification was received? I had a degree of responsibility of C or D, but after obtaining the BTEC qualification, I have had a degree of responsibility level of E. I obtained my BTEC 3 years ago, but have been doing similar work for the past 8 years. I'm registered as a PR Techni engineer since 2010.
Okay, Marco, the short answer is yes, 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 and yes. Okay, so yes, you can register. You do put pre-benchmark qualification experience in the similar field. You can put that in as part of your application. 3 years post-benchmark is the minimum, but if you have that much experience getting your BTEC, then you certainly should be able to, by now in 2024, 3 years experience plus 14 years experience as a professional technician, you should be able to register as a professional technologist.
Okay, and then Vincent is asking, after the submission of the reports and supporting documentation, will there be an interview? And if so, what's the outline of the interview?
Okay, so everybody does go for a professional review, which is an interview with at least 2 of your peers. So that's that. The format, you would have 15 minutes that you can do a presentation on your experience and demonstrate your competence, whereafter you would have about 45 minutes plus to engage with the panel in a question and answer session. So they would be looking at asking you questions. There is then also 2 other types of interviews, which is not compulsory in the registration process. The registration of professional review interview is compulsory, so everybody has to do that. You may be invited for experiential appraisal interview, which means you have not, your written submission did not sufficiently indicate your competence. So you may be called for an interview, and that is related to only some of the outcomes. So it wouldn't be all of the outcomes like it does in a professional review. That needs to be, that would be covered. And then if that is successful, then you would also be still called for a professional review as well. So just because you had an experiential appraisal interview does not exempt you from doing a professional review. And then the other type of interview is if your application is declined, you will have the opportunity for an now I forgot the name again. Yeah, so there's an interview if you have failed the application, an advisory interview. That's it. An advisory interview would be available to you to get insights into where the deficiency in your application was. Okay. Rudy, good day. Do I fill in both TER and DEO if I have more than 10 years experience post my qualification? Rudy, yes, at least the last 3 years should be in the format of a training experience report that is signed by your supervisor, and then any experience older than 3 years you may put into a TEO. So, but at least the last 3 years should be on a TER. Next one, Smalley, is there a formal process on how to register as a PR Eng when you are a PR Eng Tech with 15 years experience, senior engineer level with a BTech or an M-Eng? What is the requirements? Smalley, the requirements is that you have there's a specific masters that you need to do that would cover the fundamentals that the BTech does not have in, but that the BSc and the BEng does have. So there is currently there is the option that you can, through that type of educational process, get the necessary qualification. As far as I know, nobody has been able to successfully do that, however. All right. Good day. How do you replace a former supervisor? Should sign one's report due to them having passed away? Can I use anyone that is in the organization if they were not involved with the project? Okay, so if you cannot get your supervisor or previous supervisor to sign your engineering report, whether they be having passed away, left the country, or for some other reason you can't find them, then you go to the police station, you make an affidavit to the fact that you are not able to get the signature due to those circumstances, and you would then be submit that affidavit with your TER for that time period. Is document R03 RRPE the only referee report, or are there others? Another one for the knowledge is technicians. Only see the one mentioned above. Okay, so every application forms. Okay, so the application forms for engineers has an A in front of the numbers. The technologist has a B, and the technicians has a C. So in the application form itself, you will find that the referee report for technologist has a PT at the back, technician has a PN at the back, specified category has a CS at the back. So I hope that answers that question. So yes, every category has their own referee report, and they don't look the same.
Okay,
so
thank you.
That's it for the chat.
Yes, and I just also saw the thingy, the Q&A tab, and there's just 3 questions. I think we covered Matthew's one during the hands. And yeah, do you want to take them, or should I read them out for you, Mr. Strydom?
Okay, now let me see.
Okay.
If I complete my BEng Tech honors in electrical engineering, do I register as a candidate engineering technologist? You can register as your candidate engineering technologist with your BEng Tech. You don't have to do the honors. Your BEng Tech is the benchmark qualification for engineering technologist. So you can register as a candidate with that qualification. Matthew, how does the referee process work? Okay, that has been covered, I think, sufficiently.
Yes.
Fiona, I am currently registered as a professional engineering technician and would like to register as a candidate technologist to avoid higher fees during the registration process. Where's the see more? Okay. Will I be liable for yearly fees for both registrations? I don't know, honestly. I think you do. As far as I know, that for every category that you are registered in, you would have separate annual fees for every category.
Donald, may you please come in on that one?
I'm also not sure, but I will check with finance. I'm not sure.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. Okay, I think for the sake of time, colleagues, can we please hold off for questions and try to see if we can't cover them at the end? But right now we're moving on to the second part of the webinar, which would be where Mr. Donald Ndlovu will be taking us through the application form and the checklist of what is expected from you guys in terms of documentation to meet the administrative screening. Thank you. Over to you, Donald.
Okay, thanks, Chair, and good day. My name is Donald, a registration officer. So I'm going to be taking you through the application form and the checklist, and then where to get the application form on the ECSA website. So I'll be sharing from my site. You will let me know if you can see.
We can see your screen, but not the form yet. Yeah.
No, I've opened the website. So
Okay,
first
cool.
thing first, if you want the application form, you will go to you will open the ECSA website, and then under documents. If you click documents, that's where you can see for specified, for professional, all the applications form are here. So you just choose one here. Then it will direct you in all the documents. So if you want any documents or you want the application form, you go to ECSA website under my documents, then all the forms and the documents are here. So let me just quickly share. Then I'll just quickly go to the application form. So I've opened one for specified, which is lifting machinery inspector. So there are a few things that I just want to show you. That we have seen many applicants are doing, the mistakes that they are doing when they are completing the application form. So I will start with this application form. As you can see, this application form is being controlled. So we have seen many applicants submitting old application form which doesn't have this header, this one. So you submit an application form, you complete in full, but if it doesn't have this header, if it's not controlled, then we return that application form and then we send you this form that is controlled so that you can redo it again. So we've seen many applicants submitting old application form without being controlled. Even assessors cannot assess it if they see that this application form is not controlled because it's the old application form. So I've shown you where to get the application form. You go to ECSA website, under my documents, and then you will download, you will find this application form. As you can see here, effective date is from 03/01 2024. The next review will be in 2028. So make sure that you use the correct form so that you can avoid up and down, so that we can, because we'll resend this one so that you can redo again. I can see the hand. I don't know if it's an old hand.
Do you want to take the questions as you go, Donald, or do you want to finish presenting and then we can take the questions in the end?
Yeah, I can finish and then I'll take it at the end.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Okay, so there are a few mistakes that we have seen, both professional and specified, the mistakes that applicants are doing when they complete this form. So this form, the small mistakes that you can do can delay your application. For an example, the signature, just forgetting to put the signature and the date can delay your application. So if we go through down this application, you will see the first page of the application form is a general information where you have to put your name, your surname, ID number, date of birth, race, and group. So many applicants even forgot to attach the photograph here. You're failing to attach the photograph here, your application won't be processed. We'll wait until you submit. This is the delay as well. So make sure that when you complete your application form, complete it in full. So here you put your general information, your ID, your address, employer address as well, and then the cell phone number. And then when I come here to the email address, so what we have seen again, we as officers, is that many applicants like to use the email address from a work email address, which becomes a problem for us. I mean, work must have been restricted. I'll send an email and then you don't see because you have used the word. So anything that we send, we'll use this email, which is a work. So if it's advisable that applicants use their personal email, like a Gmail account, web email, and then their personal email, so that when we send it delays. Many problems with applicants because they say, I've submitted an application in January, today I haven't received any communication. And then when we check, we have sent it to the work email, it has bounced back. So it cannot be our problem. It's your problem because you gave us the email address, Then when we send it to you, you receive, or you cannot receive anything from ECSA because of the email. So it's advisable if you are an applicant, use your personal email here. So, and then I will go down here, and then qualification will indicate your qualification, the name of the institution, when, and then from where to when. And then another thing, as you can see here, it says NB. Here you need to initial and commissioner of oath. So this is very important. Many applicants forget to initial and commissioner of oath. So your application cannot be processed without this, your initial and the commissioner of oath. Then I'll go to the second page as well. So these are just questions that they ask, and then you need to answer. And then previously registered, have you completed the learnership? You just say yes. Previously or currently registered, you will just indicate. Are you a member of VAs? You will indicate yeah. As we go down, then you can indicate in what do you call it? Application fee, then referee. And then now we have changed the policy. Now it's 2 referee. One must be ECSA registered, even the other one if it's not ECSA registered. We are no longer requiring 3, it's 2 now. 1 registered, 1 even if it's not registered is fine. 1 must be a supervisor registered, the other one even if it's not registered is fine. So we go here to page number 3, declaration part. Make sure that you declare, you put your name, Donald Ndlovu, ID number. Then here you come and mark that I've never been convicted, yes or no. So signature, your signature, your name, signature as well, and then a stamp. Another thing, your application cannot be processed without a commissioner stamp from a police station. So you must make sure that your application, first 3 page, sign, initial, stamp, and you have declared and everything is in order. And then I will just go try to be fast because of time. Then you come here to tertiary qualification. Yeah, that's where you just indicate your name as well. Don't forget to write your name, applicant name, your ID, Donald, the name of the qualification. Most for specified, they use metric, they use the metric, they use the N courses, they use trade. So you just put it here. And then we go down, you sign here, applicant signature. The small things here, forgetting to put your signature, we don't process your application. Even when your application is in order, forgetting to sign here and put a date. We don't process your application. We'll send a communication to say, tertiary qualification, there is no date, there is no signature. So make sure that when you complete your application, you complete it in full. Where they say signature, put your signature. Where they say your name, put your name. When they say date, put your date. So here is for your information to read. As you can see, these are some of the checklists. You will go through it. You will go through it. You will read you. It will guide you. And then you go down for referee as well. Mr. Sean has covered a lot of things, as you can see here, because we have many questions regarding the referee. As you can see, your referee can be an immediate supervisor, is here on the application form, can be a mentor, indirect supervisor, employer, colleague, or a client. So I will go to TER, Training and Experience Report. So this is a training and experience report. These are the mistakes that we have seen. There are mistakes that we have seen here. Applicant, they don't write their name, they don't put their signature and date. So this is very important. You put your name here, period. Here you will start from, for example, you say, this is my period 1. For example, I've started working in 2009 to 2005. This will be my period 1. How many weeks? For example, 500 weeks. Then you come, you put your name here, Donald. Then I put my signature and date. Then here I get a supervisor to sign. Mr. Sean has also indicated to say, if you cannot get hold of the supervisor, you attach an affidavit. So you go to police station, write an affidavit to say, I cannot get the supervisor for period 1, so and so, then you sign, you attach it. So if you have attached an affidavit, you just say, see attach an affidavit, see attach affidavit. So you come and complete it. And then we go to TEO. So we have seen many applicants because they cannot get hold of the supervisor. Instead of using the TER, they use the TEO because here there is no part where a supervisor needs to sign. So you don't use this. If you read here, you must at least have 10+ years. So you see many people, they are using this, they don't even have 10 years working experience. So we'll ask you to redo it on a training and experience report. You cannot get hold of a supervisor and attach an affidavit. Don't use this one if you don't have a 10 plus working years experience. So it's the same thing. So you go down to engineering report, that's where you put applicant name, then you complete it. Then down here, put your name, supervisor, date and signature. TAR, training and experience summary. So here, for an example, I've shown here. So we have seen many applicants, both for LMIs and for specified and professional. They are making a mistake here. For an example, here, if you go back here to training and experience report, I've indicated my period 1. I've started working in 2009 to 2005. I was working at this company and all these things. So, but when applicants come here to training and experience summary, it will come here. I said I started working in 2009. When it comes down here, it will say I started working in 1990, but it did not submit the report. I said I started working in is my period 1, whereas what he has submitted, he said, then for an example, he will say I've worked from 1990 to 2000, I was working here. Then how many weeks? And then from 2000, sorry, I'm just giving an example. From 2000 to 2005, I was working, whereas he did not submit this. And then we send communication to say your training and experience summary does not correspond with your training and experience report. So what you have submitted, if here you said for training and experience report number 1, you said you started working in 2009. When you come here to training and experience summary, you must say 2009. So it must correspond. Your 1 here must correspond with your training and experience report, your period 1. So these are mistakes that people are doing. They will write that they started working in 1990, whereas they did not submit the report. So on our side, it doesn't correspond. When it goes to assessors and moderator, they will say, we don't see this report. Where is this report? So when you submit, make sure that it corresponds, what you wrote here and what you have submitted. Your name and date. Then I will go down. This one you complete as well. Just put your name and initial, surname and initial, and you complete, you sign, your mentor sign as well. Date. So here is a referral report. So this part you can send it to your referee to complete it. You send this part to your referee to complete it. This part of a referee, you send it to your referee to complete. So what we have seen with the referees are not completing this application in full. You find that the referee come here, he doesn't write the applicant name, he just write me as a referee, I'm Donald, and then he complete it. When he send it to engineer at ECSA or when he send it to us, it's hard for us to locate this referee. We don't know who is it for because he doesn't have a name. Then the applicant will say everything has been submitted to us, but on our side, even if we have received it, we won't know because it doesn't have a name here. It doesn't have an applicant name. So these are mistakes that are done by your referees. So you must inform your referee to complete it in full, to put your name and put the registration number as well, which is very important. If it's not ECSA registered, you must just say not applicable or not registered. Then you come here and rate as well. He must rate you because even if you have completed in full, but he hasn't rated you here, we'll return it to say your referee must rate it. So those are things that you must also ask your referee to complete this part in full, this referee report in full. Then we go down. These are supervisor's checklist. You can give it to your supervisor to do the checklist. Then the initial development, that's where you indicate the courses that you have done, can be engineering courses, management courses, or the computer courses. You just put it here, and then your signature, your date. Then when we go down, there is a disability form as well. Many applicants don't complete this part. It's very important to indicate if you have a disability or not. So make sure that you also fill here. Donut Ndlovu, if no, no, if yes, yes, then state the nature. And then that's it with the application form. Before I can go to questions, let me open the checklist as well. So this is the checklist that we are using for when we vet the application form. For professional and specified is the same checklist. So what we do here, we check, is the application completed and signed? We just tick. We just tick. If no, then we tick here. Then proof of payment, application fee. With an active candidacy, then it's half. Without candidate member is 10. Then we check if it's paid. Passport photo, we check as well if it's attached. The declaration part, the ID copy, the tertiary qualification, we just mark here. Certified copies of qualification, we do check if the qualification that you have submitted is it certified. The ID, IDP, the 2 referral reports that are required, we do check. Summary and training and experience, is it completed in full? We do check. The TER, we do check as well. The TEO as well. The organogram, we do check. And then this is the checklist that we are using. Then the engineering report, is it signed? As you can see here, signed by both applicant and the supervisor. We do check. And then the education development, if you are applying via an alternative route, if you have completed this one. And then proof of membership if it's attached. So I think I'm done from my side. I can take questions now.
Okay, can we start with the hands, Donald?
Okay.
Okay, Ismail, you can go. Please unmute and ask your question. Okay, can we move on to Marcos? Okay. And then Shad.
How are you, everybody? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm sorry, apologies. I came very late. So my question is very quick one. I want to know where can I access the whole recording of this meeting after this meeting has concluded?
We will share it with everyone who's in attendance.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, cool. Colin?
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I wanted to check, since now the application is submitted online, are we allowed to use electronic signatures for our supervisors and ourselves?
Yes.
Okay, that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going back up. Makosi, are you back? Okay, Nizam?
Okay, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Donald,
Nizam, please hold. Let's go to Makosi first and then we'll get back to you. So sorry for that. Makosi, you can go ahead.
Sorry about that. My initial question was, in terms of the TER, what are the documentation in terms of supporting your activities which you require to be submitted and attached along with that?
There's no supporting documentations for your training experience report. Your TER is the document that you submit that has the information that you need to provide in order for us to be able to assess your experience on. So there's no additional appendices to the training experience report. You can have example of or appendices to your overall application where you have maybe show some of your calculations or those kind of things, but it's not specific to the TER. It's in general for the overall application.
Okay, thank
All right, thank you
you
very
for
much.
that. I see Nizam's hand is gone, but I wanted to just check. Do you still want to ask a
Yes.
question before we move on? Okay, cool.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Yes, I have a few questions. The first question is on the TEO and the TER. If you've, I see you mentioned that if you have more than 10 years experience, all your periods where you gained experience must be done on the TEO form, not the TER. Is that correct?
No, that is not correct. If you go to R03, there's a column or a table that lists the various reasons why you would be using the one or the other. The real short answer is you only use a TEO because there's a limitation on the length of your application. So if you have a TEO for every short term that you did in for that is a long time ago, you might end up with your application being over the maximum permissible size. So then you would have a TEO which combines a number of time periods, but you're using less words to explain what it's about. Okay, you may not have only a TEO. You must have a TER for at least the last 3 years, and you can have a TEO for the period before that, or you can have TERs for your whole time period.
Okay, thank you. No, that's clear. Then the next question is on your education, when you list your qualification and the subjects, if you have more than one qualification, should you draft a signature on each after each qualification, or do you just list all the qualifications and sign once off? That applies to the other sections as well.
Donald, are you still with
It's
us?
62 per month. So I only took
Yes,
62.
I'm with you, Mr. Sean.
Tabile, could you please mute your mic?
Yeah. Which is a full one.
I just want to, Donald, I think maybe I can take it. You can just verify that I'm answering correctly. So you will see that the application is actually broken down into various forms. So every form needs a signature. So where you have your qualifications, you would have your qualification attach the actual qualification, and then on your list of subjects, there you would list all the subjects, even if you have not yet obtained a qualification. So for instance, if I am applying as a technician, but I have already done some of my BTEC work, I would, on my tertiary qualifications, go and indicate there's actually a space that says extra subjects pass for incomplete qualifications. So you can list all of those and you only sign the form once.
Yes.
Okay, no, that's great. That answers my question. And then second last question. If you have outstanding fees on your, for example, your candidate, you have outstanding fees and you're registering now as a professional, must you square those fees before the registration as a professional is processed, or do you process it still?
Outcome
No,
8.
we don't process it. We don't.
Outcome number 8, ethics.
Okay. So the answer is no, you don't process it. You must square your existing fees.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And then just the last question on the calculations. Depending on your experience, like my experience, most of my areas where I work, I haven't worked personally with calculations. What is the can you give me more insight into that, specifically on calculations?
Okay, so the thing is, what does engineers actually do? Engineers is applying science to solve problems. Okay, so we almost all our problems that we have, most of them we end up with a mathematical equation to assist us in demonstrating how do we get to an answer. Okay. However, that said, you don't necessarily for every time, if you're a lifting machinery inspector, you don't have to go and calculate the forces every time that you do that you set up your crane and do something. So you don't have to go and redo all your calculations, but you must make decisions based on engineering principles. Okay, so I'm not necessarily going to go into a whole list of complicated equations to decide whether my I'm going to use a 10-year or a 20-year return period for the rainfall for the specific project that I'm doing. So I can use past experience to say this would do because I know this is I have the experience to demonstrate that I can do this. And that's what all of this is really actually about, is demonstrating to you, a group of your peers that you are ready to take on the full responsibility of being a registered professional engineering practitioner. Does that make sense?
Yes, but on the outcomes, I believe it's on the first 3 outcomes. There is a requirement for you to demonstrate using calculations. So in this instance, should one demonstrate by using your own field, whether you use them on a daily basis or whether you have a specific role in your organization where someone performs these calculations? Is it upon you to demonstrate that you are able to use these calculations and understand how it is referenced to code? Where does one look for the necessary information to come to a conclusion in terms of demonstrating whatever is being designed or being used or changed? You're able to understand what goes into it in terms of calculating and using the code.
Yeah. So
Is that sufficient?
Yes. If they specifically, if there's a specific code that you are using, and it already has, even at for engineers, there's specific design codes that they are using. That means they don't have to go to first principles every time to prove. For instance, do a bending moment diagram every time they want to have a look at the stresses of a steel beam, for instance. There's a steel design handbook that has all of those already calculated in it. So that kind of reference to that standard or is perfectly acceptable in terms of when you're talking well-defined and specifically defined, especially.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Lifa?
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to ask about the form. Should we remove the pages which are not completed, pages such as the TO and reference form for the application form?
Yes, you can remove them.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yengane?
Okay, no, thanks a lot, Chair. My name is Joseph Yengane. I really appreciate this session. It assists a lot. I think I've got 2 or 3 questions that I would like to ask. The first one is on the training and experience report, whereby Mr. Ndlovu was explaining in terms of the periods. My question basically is that this issue of periods, does it depend on the duration of time you spent with the employer, or is it specifically for a particular project that you want to report on? I think that is the first one. Then the other one is the issue of outcomes and criteria. In fact, the outcomes, I think I'm fine. I just want to know about this criteria. Where do you get this information on criteria in order for you to make a conclusion that this statement that you are putting here talks to a certain criteria? And the last one, it will go in line with the first one, because there's that summary whereby you now need to indicate. I just wanted to check so that I do not mix. There's that summary where you now indicate the number of years that you worked, and also you indicate as to which employer you were working on. And when you look, in fact, maybe the way I'm confused, or maybe I've confused myself, is that the total numbers, it tricks me in terms of saying, is it for the duration of your time with the employer, or is the duration of the specific project that you want to bring to the attention of the assessors? I think those are the questions that I would like to ask the chairperson. Thank you.
Okay, so the training experience report, there's fairly detailed guidelines in R2R that tells you when, from what time period a training experience report should cover. A training experience summary, think of it more like almost like your a summary of your career so far. So you start off with giving me a summary of all the people that you worked for, the positions that you held, and what your key work was in each one of those. For each one of those line items in your TES, you would have either or you would have a TER. If you make use of a TEO, it may cover more than one of those line items. Okay, but your TER then gives full description and full details of what you did in that time period. So the TER tells you or tells me as an assessor what you did. Your engineering report tells me how did you do that engineering part of it. Okay, so every time, so you might be with one employer, but you have worked on 4 projects, and each project was very specific or unique. You might do that in one TER, or you might do it in 4 TERs. You may decide. You may, however, if you were an assistant on the first project, and then you took the full responsibility on the second project, you would have to split that into 2 separate training experience reports. Okay, so it's when your work circumstances changed, when your employer changed, and when your level of responsibility changed. So it might not, that work circumstances does not necessarily refer to where the project is. So if I'm a resident engineer and I'm doing the same type of projects one after the other for one employer, and I remain at the same level, I don't have to give all of the various projects separate training experience reports, because my overall work environment does not actually change. Where I am in the country might change, but what I'm doing doesn't really change. Does that make sense?
Okay, no, I think it does make sense a lot. Thank you.
Okay. And the second part of your question was, the second question related to, just remind me quickly, please.
Related to the this criterias.
Well, the criteria, yeah, R08. So you've got R08, which is the guide to the registration standards. So in R08, it breaks it down very nicely in terms of what the different criteria are. For instance, outcome number 5, communication. You have a criteria related to writing. You have a criteria to reading. In other words, be able to read and understand technical and legal documentation that is applicable to what you do. Okay, so if you are busy with a contract, you need to be able to actually read the contract documents and understand how things should be done. So writing, reading, receiving instructions, giving instructions, and being able to make a do a verbal presentation. Those are the 5 criteria that sits under outcome number 5 for communication. But you can find that in R08.
Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Danza? Danza? Okay, I can see that your mic is muted, Danza, but we can't hear you. So can I please move to Ivan and then let us know when you're ready again to ask your question. Ivan?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the informative session. My questions are actually 3. It's in connection with the TER and the TOR in terms of the purposes of these 2 forms. I know it was partially answered, but I wanted to make sure that, we don't make any mistakes. The purpose of the TER and the purpose of the TOR. And lastly, the commissioner of oath. Do we necessarily need to go to the police station, or we can use our commissioners of oath within the companies, like the attorneys that we have? Thank you.
Okay, so the second question first, yes, you can use any commissioner of oath. It does not necessarily have to be at a police station, or that does not necessarily have to be doesn't have to be from a police station. It can be any commissioner of oath. That's number 2. Number 1, the purpose of a training experience report is to tell me what you did, so that I can understand what engineering you were doing, where were you, what kind of work were you doing, what responsibilities were you taking, how or what interactions that you have with clients and with other role players in the what you call it, on the project or within the environment in which you're working. The training experience report, the TEO, I'm not sure of the TOR. I don't know that one. The TEO is a overview that you can use to bind or to cover a larger time period than what a TER is. So the TER needs to change every time you change level of responsibility. When you go from an assistant engineer or assistant resident engineer to the resident engineer position, or those kind of things. A TEO can cover a much larger time frame. But you can only use a TEO if you have more than 10 years post benchmark qualification experience, and then it should only also be no more recent than at least 3 years must be in TERs. So at least the last 3 years of your career must be in training experience reports detailing exactly what you did, and the training the experience overview you can use if you've got more than 10 years experience. So for your older experience, where, for instance, say I was working for 5 years in various laboratories before I moved to a consulting firm. But that 5 years is at the beginning of my career, and I've got 10 years experience. So the 5 years that I worked in various laboratories, I can do in one TEO. I don't have to do for every lab that I worked in a different TEO. But now, since I've been in the consulting sphere, then I should be doing TERs that breaks it up. And it could be that I've been in the same design office now for 5 years, then I only have one TER that covers the last 5 years, because nothing has changed to the extent that it requires me to do a new TER. Okay. Other thing that the TER demonstrates to me is how did you change the levels of responsibility? How did you grow in terms of the responsibility that you were taking?
Okay, so you actually submit 2 TER you can use to give a snapshot of where you started and where you were, and the TOE you can use to capture the summary of your experience directly after your qualification or your prescribed qualification.
Yeah, but if you only have 6 years of experience, you can't now go and do a TEO for the first 3 years and then TERs for the last 3 years, because you don't have enough experience to say, okay, as an assessor, I don't have to really look at all of your experience. It's only when you've got more than 10 years experience where I can say, okay, I don't really need to interrogate and look closely at all of the stuff that you did more than 5 or 6 years ago.
No, that's quite clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eric?
Thank you very much for giving me the floor. I'd like to find out exactly on the reference report, if we can have clarity on that one as well. That is my first question. I'll come with the second one as we are going forward.
Okay, so the referee report is part of your application form, and you select 2 or 3 referees that you would like to speak on behalf of you, as people that know what you do, and that has at least that knows what it is that you do as part of your career. So that's what the referee report is there for. It gives us as assessors an understanding of the people that know you in your day-to-day work. How do they rate your abilities?
Okay, thank you very much for that one. On the signature that have been answered already, we can use an electronic signature on this application form.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Okay, the second one is let's say if you have to register, is there a certain period a specific period that have been set in a year, or the registration is open for the whole year?
There's 2 slots per annum when the registrations can be submitted. That is in the beginning of the year, and now again in the middle of the year, and I think it's from the 15th of June to the 15th of August, and then in the beginning of the year, it closes, I think, in the middle or end of February. So there's 2 windows in which you can close. Everybody at ECSA's email address at this stage has the indicates, you know, a
Yeah,
big
so that
shout out
one
on
is
their
saying
banners.
the last date is on the 15th of August for
That's right. Yeah.
that is the last day of is this one the first lot of registration or is the last one for this year?
It's the last
Is
one
what?
for this year. It will be opening again in January again. So if you don't have it by the 15th of August, okay, and that's your application. That does not mean the referee report has to be in before the 15th. Okay, so don't say that, oh, but I must get mine in before the 15th, and the referees must also be in before the 15th. No, the referees, they can come through a little bit later, but you must have your application in. Is that correct, Donald?
Yes, and then, but now when we vet, we give applicants 5 days to submit the outstanding documents.
Okay.
So if the applicant doesn't submit within 5 days, you submit after 5 days, we'll put your application in order, but we'll process it in January.
Okay, meaning if the referee that did not submit his report on the application form, you give the applicant like 5 days to for completing the report the document.
Yes. For an example, if you submitted your application, there is no proof of payment. I'm just giving an example. There is no there is no proof of payments. There is no referral report. We'll only give you 5 days to submit everything, which means you have to inform your referral report to your referee to submit within 5 days, and your proof of payment to be submitted within 5 days. Failing to do that, you submit after 10 days. Your application will be in order, but we'll send a communication to say your application will be processed in January. Because we have already closed. We have been given you 5 days. You did not submit the documents.
Okay, other question is the referee can complete the document before his report on the form document application before even I submit my so that I can submit once at all.
And they can submit before.
Yeah, your referees don't send it via you; they send it directly, and that can happen at any point in time beforehand as well.
Meaning you will just gonna use that page which you need to fill on this form.
Correct.
Okay, that page need to be sent to the referee to fill that form, and you can send. And if you have to send via which email address?
Engineer at ECSA. Yes.
Engineer at ECSA.co.za. It is on the register on the referee form as well.
And what the subject to put on there, you need to put your. It doesn't need to put like the applicant name on the subject, or what's supposed to put on the subject.
If when I do a referee report, I put in the subject line referee report and then the person's name. Cool. And I would then go and put the full name, surname, and all the first names that I have for them. I would make it as complete as possible, that whoever gets the email can understand exactly. So for instance, if the application, for instance, is if it's your application, I would say then referee report Nubi Eric PR Techni Eng or technician application or professional technician application or professional technologist application, so that whoever is reading the email will very quickly know where it should be going.
Where should be going? Okay, that's great. I got that one as well. And I would like to find out now, as a person who's registering as a professional engineering technician, is the form C1
Yes.
Is the form C1, which is a review date 14 February 2026, is the correct one?
The 14th February sounds very familiar. Let me just quickly see if I
Because
can
I
open
saw
the one
it's
that's.
quite different with the one that we use for presentation.
Yeah, no, but this is for the one that you showed now is for specified category because the session was specifically set up for specified categories. So the registration form for engineering professionals looks somewhat different, but C1 effective date 1/06/2024, next review 01/06/2028. Okay, that's what I just now downloaded from ECSA's website. So the one that you've got for 24 Feb is outdated.
Meaning this is the one that I got here with me currently is not the proper form.
Yes, that's outdated. So I just downloaded now from ECSA's website C1 and the date, effective date is 1 June 2024.
And the next review date?
Next review date is 1 June 2028.
The one that I got here is effective date is 1/4 February 2022 and next date is 14/02 2026.
Yeah, so but they in between now realized that something needs to change, so they went and changed it and issued it for use from the 1st of June 2024 and next review is in 4 years time. Okay, so I suggest you just go to the website where like Donald had showed and go download the latest document. Okay, as I said earlier, if you already have training experience reports that are signed off, those can be on the older format. That doesn't matter, but you're going to have to do the engineering report, your training experience summary, the referee reports. All of those has to be on the new updated format.
Okay, meaning I have to work on the update. I have to go to the website and upload the new form because this one is a C1 registration as professional. The one that you are opening currently on is a registration as a professional engineer technician, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I will go for that one. I'll go to the website and see if I can download the new form.
Okay.
Yeah, I was almost finishing. Okay. My last question is on the...
I'm sharing. Can you see?
Yes.
Sorry. I'm sharing. Can you see the latest one?
Yes.
Yeah, I can see the latest one. Can
Yeah,
you
see date effective.
I don't see anything from my side, please. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can see the latest one. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
Meaning I have to go for this new one. Perhaps can you attach it also on the email once you send us the summary of the minute of the meeting? The last question is on the training experience report. The period. No? This period need to be for somebody. You have to put the period since you started working or the period on the qualification that you are registering for.
No, if you have work experience prior to the qualification that is applicable, you start with that. If you were working outside in a different industry before you started studying full-time, or even if you were studying part-time but working in a different industry, then only once you start working in this industry would you include that. Okay, so if it's in the same industry, you can go for older experience as well before your benchmark qualification. Otherwise, it's more recent. Donald, while you've got that document open, just scroll down to the engineer, the referee report.
Okay.
Form C3, and I'm very surprised now to see that this also has a commission of oath or a justice of peace that it needs to be signed in front of.
Donald, can you
Should I
please
share?
share your screen as well?
Okay. I'm sharing.
Thank you.
Must I go down, Mr. Sean, to the referee?
Yeah, page 22.
Okay. Loading. This one.
Just give it a moment. It's still showing page 15 by us. Yeah. So if you go to the bottom of the of this on page 22, you'll see that the declaration by the referee, and they sign, and then there's a commissioner of oath that also signs.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is no longer just the way you used to do it, that the referee. So the referee cannot sign this electronically. It must be done in front of a commissioner of oath.
Manually. Mm-hmm. Even on the first page where we're supposed to sign, where the commission need to put the stamps, we need to sign also manually in
Yes.
front of the commission.
Correct.
Yes.
Meaning we can't use the electronic signature to sign this document with.
No. So where you can have your electronic signature is your supervisor's signature on your training experience reports.
Mm-hmm.
That you can have as electronic signatures, which means you don't have to drive all over the country asking people for signatures. You can request those electronically, but your declaration must be signed by you in person. So this is the referee's declaration that you're seeing here. It must be signed in front of the commissioner of oath or justice of peace. And similarly on page 2 of the document, where it's your declaration that this is your application for, and you have done all of the work that you've are representing in this document is your own work. You have not been found guilty of an offense, etc., etc. So all of that declaration is done in front of a commissioner of oath. So you cannot have this declaration on that is number 7 signed electronically.
Okay. And the last question is my technical report need to be signed by all 3 referees, right?
No.
Hello?
No, there's no which technical report. You don't have a technical report, you have an engineering report. And that
Like
gets the engineering report is signed by your
mentor.
Your current supervisor. So even if it is work that you did with a different firm, by the time that you then actually sign your engineering report, it gets countersigned by your current supervisor.
Okay. No problem. Thank you very much, because I got you did already clarify on what is the TER and TEO. That one I had a question on that one, but you did clarify before I answered that question. Before I asked the question, you did already go through that one. There's no need for me to go on that one anymore.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Strydom, can you spare a bit of a few extra minutes so we can take the last hand? I think the last hand should be Colin's one for the sake of time, colleagues. But if Mr. Strydom can also spare a bit of time so that we can go through the hands that are up, is that okay?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Mutudi, you can go.
Sorry, just before you do, just a clarification on on that, the signature on the engineering report asks for a signature of mentor or supervisor. So it's either the mentor or the supervisor that can countersign the engineering report with the applicant. Does not necessarily have to be your current supervisor, it can be your mentor as well. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Kotato. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. Let's start first with this application form, because I've just also found out in this application, which is I have already written my report and it's ready for submission. And now the form has changed, and I have also sent my referees the referee report that they must submit. And I see now, it's my first time that I see that this form has been changed.
Yeah, and I think the fact that they now require it to be signed in front of a commissioner of oath is going to be something that's definitely likely to be a contentious point if it's not submitted on the latest format.
Yes, but now do I have to rechange everything that I've done to the new form while I'm left with only some days, because you are closing, guys, now on the 15th?
Donald, you guys changed the form. Come and defend yourself, please.
First, I just want to ask, which form did you use? Just want to know.
I'm using the CLTC application form, which was
I just want to check.
Yeah, I also
if it's an old form that is not controlled, then we cannot. You just have to redo it. No need for you to submit.
Oh no, this one is controlled. It's effective from 2022.
No, it's fine.
So revision 2 documents you can still use. So the new effective date for the form, which is the 1st of the 6th, 2024, is marked as revision 3. So anything that has been has the name of the compiler and the approving officer's name at the top from revision 1, you can still use.
All right, no, thank you. Yeah, I was no. Okay, on the declaration, does any item there answered yes will have an effect on my application?
Let me quickly go through here. I have never been removed from office of trust on account of improper conduct. Okay, go read the code of conduct, please, and then understand what implication that has. If you have been convicted of an offense in the Republic of South Africa, in other words, if you've got a criminal record, and it's for fraud, you cannot be registered as a professional engineer. Okay, the Act is very clear on that. So that is something that is a definite problem. If you are found unsigned and mentally disordered under the Mental Health Act by a high court, you cannot practice as an engineer. Yeah, so you can understand that you need to actually have cognitive ability to be registered as a professional and to practice as professional engineer. You have not been disqualified as punishment under this Act. So that's Act 46 of 2000. So specifically the Engineering Act. So it's not something else that you might have been disqualified for. It's specific for registration under this Act. Declared rehabilitated insolvent caused by your negligence, okay, or performing work that's falling outside the scope of your registration. So if you've been if you have been insolvent, but it was not due to negligence or to doing work that you should not be doing, then that is not an issue. Right, understand, acknowledge that the use of chat. Okay, now you must say yes. If you say, I understand and acknowledge that the use of AI platforms, including chat GPT or similar technologies and any other sources are prohibited for the completion of my report. So you have to confirm yes, that you do understand and acknowledge that.
Okay, sorry, I don't see that one. I think it's in a new form.
Yeah.
But let me continue with other maybe 2 or 3 questions.
Okay.
Sean, if I have 5 years experience and year 1 and 2 in the degree of level E responsibility, and then in between moved from E to C, and then number 4 and 5 back to E. Does that affect my application, or how are you guys looking into that?
Okay, so by the time you get to your professional review, you should be ready to answer the question, how can you be at level E in your first year? If you can confidently answer that question and demonstrate your competence at that level right from the beginning, then yes, you can. Okay, so I'm not saying you can't. Just be ready to answer the question. But why? How can you say that?
Okay, now it's simple, but okay. I will see on that. And the last question would be on these forms. Can I also remove like the information sheet where you get to? Yes, so I can remove all those things.
You remove all the information sheets. Yes. And the forms that are not applicable to your application, you can also remove. Okay, so if you're not using a TEO, you don't have it. You can remove the TEO as well.
All right. Thanks. That's my last question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, Sibongiseni.
Thanks for the opportunity. My question is on alternative route application. So it's my understanding that ECSA can allow you to register as a technologist if you have got a diploma plus 8 years of experience, 5 of which is under responsibility level. In my case, I've 9.5 years experience. In that 9.5 years of experience, 7.5 was under after the national diploma, and then I completed my BTech, and then I have 2 years experience under BTech. So I'm in a difficult position because I don't know how to proceed with my application. Should I continue as an alternative route application where I will complete the B18 form, but that B18 form says that you must only complete it if you don't have the BTech. Yes, so I'm not sure how to proceed with the application.
Okay, so you have 2 choices. One, you can wait a year and submit a normal application, or you can now submit an alternative route application with B18 completed, and that I would say maybe not a bad idea to indicate with your B18, have an affidavit that says, I understand that the application form requires me to not have the benchmark qualification. However, I do have the benchmark qualification, but not the prerequisite 3 years post-benchmark qualification experience for a normal application. So I would go and say, okay, let me go and do an affidavit to explain that I understand this is the rules. I'm not breaking the rules. I'm just submitting an alternative because I don't have enough experience post benchmark qualification.
Okay, that is very clear. Thank you very much. I will do so. Thank you.
Thanks. That as an assessor, that would explain everything I need to know how to assess your application. I would understand exactly if that affidavit is also in the document. Thank you.
Yanga?
And thank you very much for the opportunity. I would like to quickly ask, for the BTech application, must I include all the marks from national diploma, or can I just include the BTech marks under the tertiary qualification form? And number two, on the R08 standard, it says there's three referees required for the professional technologist, but on the new form, there's 2 spaces for referees. There's 2 referees required on the latest form. So now I wanted to know if I must stick to that 2 referees, or must I add a 3rd referee as per the R08 standard? And lastly, can you also touch base on the outcome and criteria on the TR? I know you spoke about it earlier, but can you also go further there? And because some of the TRs are not reflecting on the engineering report, so now I just needed to understand the outcome and criteria in terms of completing that section under the referred to engineering report outcome on the TR, because I even completed the outcome and criteria. Thank you very much.
Okay, so first question was okay, so RO3, table 3 in RO3 gives you information to provide in training experience report and outline for registration. So that gives you exactly what needs to be in either, and then the criteria for when you use which one. Okay, so there is a word limit in total for your TERs, and then of 2,000 words, and then TEO. Wait, that's for the engineer, not the technologist. This is the technologist, is table 5 in RO3. It's also 2,000 words, and then it says the bullet points for the TEO. Okay, so there's no word limit under the TEO. Then your question on 2 or 3 referees, work with what is on your application form, because as we just now discussed, for technicians, the application form was revised. So whatever is on the latest application form would be what maybe in R08 hasn't been updated yet. Okay, so I still would, if I were you, consider doing 3 referees, because I think the forms now say it's a maximum of 3 referees. My English is starting to run out now. So it's a maximum of 3 referees. So I would still consider rather using 3 than only 2, just because that leeway is still in your hands, but you can decide. Okay, and what was the last part of the question?
The outcome and criteria on the TR.
Okay, so outcomes and criteria. So in RO8 you would be able to find an explanation of exactly what criteria are applicable to each outcome. I mentioned earlier for communication, you have being able to write, be able to read, receive instructions, give instructions, and present your work. So that would be what you would have to, the various criteria under the specific outcomes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, The hands I knew that are up now, I don't know, looking at the time, I don't know if we should push the last two hands or closed off the session now, Mr. Strido.
We can have these two hands, but I'm not going to be able to go through the chat.
Okay.
And keep, if there's additional questions in the chat, I'm probably not going to be able to get to them.
Okay, cool. No worries. Yangani, please go ahead and then undo you the last hand, and then we have to close off the session. Colleagues, apologies for that, but we ran out of time. Yangani, you can go ahead.
Okay, no, thanks, Chair. I'm not going to be long, really. Just a small follow-up on the question that I was asking regarding the the periods, and I had it in mind just that I forgot to mention it when I was asking. I just want to check if, let's say, for instance, in period number 1, you worked for the particular employer and then probably were involved in 5 or 6 projects, and then the scope was more similar. Do I have to summarize those projects, or I can just talk about one project in that particular period? The last one is on the, I actually asked about this R08. Is R08 CS guide PE, PTN, PN? Is that the one that was is referring to in terms of the criteria? Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, so yes, the R08 is the one that you just mentioned. Okay, so but there's different R08s for the different categories. Okay, so if it's a professional category, it's R08 CS Guide PE, PT, PN, and if it's a specified category, it's R08 CS Guide SC. In terms of your number of TERs and what you put in them, as I said, for me as an assessor, the TER tells me what you did. So if the project scope is similar, you can just mention that it was 4 projects with the scope of doing this, this, and this. So you don't have to go and detail exactly what was different on the projects. And the other thing that's really important is ECSA registers a person. They register you as a professional or you as a specified category practitioner. They don't register the company or the project team. So it's about you. So if you feel that you would better demonstrate or indicate your competence by combining the 4 projects into one training experience reports, as long as it actually keeps to what the TER's rules are, then you can combine that. So for instance, in where we work, we send the guys for a time period to the laboratory. In the beginning of the 5-year training program, they go to the laboratory for 3 months. By the time they come out of there, they write a TER of 1,000 words on covering the 3 months. And I explained to them that just bear in mind that at the end of the 5 years or 3 years or however long it's going to take you to before you submit to ECSA, you only have 2,000 words for all of your TERs. So you cannot use half of your words for 3 months and then going to use the rest of the words to cover 4.5 years. Okay, so that's something that you need to take into consideration. And everybody's application is going to be a little bit different because it deals with your experience. And that's why it needs to be, we have so many assessors and so many reviewers looking at your application, because each one of us develop differently. Each one of us's road to registration is different. Hence, we're going to end up with different, the content of our applications is going to be different. So you need to package it within the rules of what the document says to demonstrate your competence as best you can. Hopefully that very long-winded explanation sheds some light for you on it.
Last one for the session today is Shand, and then we'll close off.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I want to know, why is it wrong for us to actually use AI tools to do our forms? Because I mean, those things are very useful. And if you're found using AI tool, what is the penalties? I find them to be tools that we are informing them what they must do for us. So if then they are not allowed, it becomes a bit confusing to me. Can I get clarity on that one? Thank you.
Yeah. For me, it's a fairly simple answer. It's that, you know, nobody knows what you did better than you, so nobody can write your report better than you can. And especially not just ask AI to write you a recipe to bake a cake or something like that, and see if it's worthwhile following that recipe, and then decide if you want to use that kind of artificial intelligence to represent you on behalf of your in your professional application. That would be my very nondescript answer to you. Maybe somebody from ECSA can be more specific on the steps they would take. From my side, it's a matter of I just don't think it's worth putting my professional future in the hands of something that can't actually think for itself. Thank you.
Okay. So guys, we are closing the meeting now. Apologies to all the colleagues that we couldn't get to, but we hope that the session was quite useful. Thank you so much, Mr. Strydom, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to help us with the Road to Registration webinar. And thank you so much also, colleague. I hope it's beneficial. It's been beneficial to all of you, and we can't wait to receive all of your applications and for them to be successful. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we will share the recording with everyone who has registered and was in attendance. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me as your guest speaker today, and yeah, I'm glad I can assist.
Thank you
Thank
very
you very
much.
much.
Thank you, colleagues. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.